This episode is brought to you by Pluto TV. Pluto TV has all the shows and movies you love streaming for free. That means laughter is free with gut-busting comedies like The Neighborhood, Key and Peele, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Mystery is free with countless cases to crack from Criminal Minds, Tracker, and Matlock. And thrills are free with heart-pumping hits like The Walking Dead and Defiance. Feel the free. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the ever-lovely Lauren Hersey, who's looking so much healthier.
Yeah, I was a little gray for our last episode. I know this is a podcast and nobody can see me, but man, that Vegas crud, it kicked my butt. 3 days in a steroid, and I'm a new woman.
There we go. No, she's rested, she's refreshed, she's ready to take on this show. So, what will we be talking about today?
Well, before we get into all of the awesomeness, I don't know if that's a word, for today's show, I did, going back to me being sick, I don't know, when you're laid up, like, with some type of funk, I'm really useless. I'm in my bed. I'm just, resting and binge watching everything that I've needed to catch up on for the last year on Netflix and beyond. So during the time that I was sick, Eric found a new-ish show for us. And I wanted to mention it on the show because it seems like if anybody... our listeners like Disney merch, this might be up your alley. It's called Up for Auction. Have you heard of the show?
No. In fact, I have to, based on what you and Eric have been saying, I have to seek this thing out because it sounds like some very high-profile Disney collectors have taken part in the program.
Yes, it's so cool. And bonus points, it was originally on the CW network. And I think I've mentioned before that I work for a company called Nexstar, who actually owns the CW network. So bonus points for supporting a show.
Oh, cool.
So the show, the premise, it's hosted by Chris Hardwick, who is, I believe, a well-known comedian, TV host, big Disney collector himself. Eric mentioned some, like, The Nerdist. I guess he was, like, one of the original, like, podcasters, like, pop culture, that kind of thing, and was the host of The Talking Dead, so the after show for Walking Dead. So anyways, this show is really about Disney collectibles, and he goes and meets with a husband and wife, Mike and Janine, who own the Van Eaton galleries in California. Right? And I know you're familiar with that.
Oh, yeah. No, that I have a giant pile of catalogs for the Van Eaton auctions. The auctions that the Van Eaton Gallery holds regularly down in the basements. I use them for reference all the time. In fact, I was just telling Lauren off air that the thing is that sometimes at these auctions, you will see things that you have never seen before and that bubble up for that one time because some collector got their hands on them. I mean, for example, this was the one place on the planet that I have ever seen the presentation book for a thing that was called Lucasport. That was supposed to be built at Disneyland. This thing, Lauren, it had a steel roller coaster where the gimmick was that depending, by the way, it's a Star Wars themed steel roller coaster. And the gimmick is, there's 6 of you sitting in your little coaster car and you all have little buttons by your seat. And depending on which button the majority of the people hammer on is whether you go to the light side or the dark side in the Star Wars story. So if you hit the light side, you saw an animatronic version of Luke Skywalker and Yoda, whereas on the other hand, if you hammered on the dark side, you were coming up against the Emperor and Darth Vader and Boba Fett. And again, it was one of these things where this amazing booklet that was full of photos of the model and mock-ups of the ride and that sort of thing, and somebody had walked it out of the building when the project got canceled. It showed up at a Van Eaton auction. It's now in somebody's private collection, never to be seen again.
I mean, like, that is the kind of stuff I personally live for.
Same thing here. Same thing here.
And in the first, like, couple episodes of the show we were watching, it was a guy who owned, like, a toy company, and he actually had, like, the world's largest Disney collection that Janine and Mike got their hands on. So, I mean, like, they had, like, a actual, like, Dumbo, the flying elephant, like, ride car, and, like, some really unique, Chris Hardwick is a big Haunted Mansion fan, and so they had some really unique Haunted Mansion collectibles. Wow. But anyways, just wanted to bring it up as a public service announcement. Like, here in West Virginia, the weather is still undecided. Are we going to be warming outside, or are we going to be 20 and snowing? Yeah. Like, it's up in the air. So if you're looking for something in the last, before spring.
If I might interrupt there for a sec, we are recording this again on Sunday, March 23rd, and Snow White, the live-action version of Snow White, came out in theaters, and I don't know if you saw the story, but the snowstorm that's been marching across the Midwest and dumping, 4 inches of snow, an early spring storm. And, the irony is Disney is saying the reason that the box office for Snow White this past weekend, well, what was it? I think Variety had the headline instead of hi ho, it was ho hum. But they're saying actually the irony is that it was snow that prevented people from going out to see Snow White. So that's why the numbers were down. So again, weather-related story.
Listen, they already forfeited their snow tie with changing the story of how she got her name. So I don't think so, Disney. Better luck next time.
Okay.
But I do have to ask you real quick with Snow White, because this is a question from my daughter for you, and maybe other people are wondering the same thing. So since our last episode, which dropped on Thursday, you had said you talked to folks that were, connected to the film. They were worried about it. Then they were optimistic. Then it opened in the U.S. Now the numbers aren't great. Where does it stand as today?
Well, the interesting thing, and again, whenever you talk with people at the studio level, it suddenly gets weird because they're like, well, we only made $45 million. But I want to point out that Mufasa, when it opened in December, it only made $35 million. And that's since gone on to do $700 million worldwide. And then if we look at Elemental, which opened June of 2023, and that only did $29 million, but that then went on to make a $500 million worldwide. So we have to extrapolate the trends and what's going on internationally. And I think the thing that actually concerns Disney at this point isn't so much that it did at the low end domestically. It's more to the point that they thought, well, worldwide will open at $100 million. And as it turns out, the numbers they're reporting today, and again, to stress here, initial box office estimates, only 87. And that's like, wow, that's even low internationally. That's on the low side of what we were expecting. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, the big deal right now is weekend 2, and how much does the box office drop? Because typically second weekend you get at least a 60% drop in box office. On the other hand, this thing has actually gotten decent reviews and good word of mouth. So the notion is if everybody goes into work on Monday, look at me, I'm talking like people still go to the office. If people go online and read what their friends have posted about Snow White and they say that they like it, will they go to the theater this week? Will they go next weekend? It's all now on weekend number 2.
I haven't been, so in my sphere, right, like you get a different group of people, we all do, but I haven't heard anybody that is saying that it was phenomenal. Like from what I've heard, it's lukewarm. Okay. Like, it's like, oh, okay, it's maybe better than we thought, but like, so it's not having me rush out to see it just yet.
In theory, Nancy and I are going out Tuesday with her pool ladies to see this, so I can talk authoritatively about it after that. At this point, I'm doing the same thing. But again, it's all now on. Does it have competition next weekend? Because face it, if you look forward into the spring, there are so many strong family films coming. Whether it's the live action Lilo and Stitch, the live action How to Train Your Dragon, or even the new Pixar Elio, and we are. Seriously, only weeks away from these things arriving, Lauren. So
I know.
Snow White has a very small window in which to make its money.
Everybody's like, well, Snow White, but Lilo and Stitch is coming.
There we go.
So hopefully that'll be a W for the Disney company. But we do have some more news to chat about.
We do.
But first, do you want to thank our sponsor?
Absolutely. And our sponsor, of course, is the world of DVC, folks, and in particular, Be Our Guest Vacations. And are you planning a Disney trip? Because that can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Be Our Guest Vacations takes care of all the details, park reservations, dining, and more, so you can focus on the fun. Their expert travel planners offer personalized services at no extra cost to you. So whether it's a Disney cruise, a trip to the parks, or another magical destination, they handle everything. So visit beourguestvacations.com to start planning your next adventure today. All right, so now we finally get to the news. And what do you got?
All right, finally. So I was on the Disney store over the last week or whatever, and I noticed something fun that I thought maybe our listeners would want to get in on. So it looks like the Disney store, and correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes these titles are misleading from the company, but I believe the Disney store is celebrating their 38th anniversary.
Yeah, I want to say it was, in fact, dear Lord, 1987 when the first Disney store, which, by the way, they built at the Glendale Galleria because it was just up the street from the Disney lot, and Michael Eisner himself could walk into this thing and check it out. I mean, they got the first one out of the ground. And once they threw open the doors and saw what the sales per square feet were for a store that only sold Disney merchandise, it's like, oh, we got to make a few more of these. And I want to say at the height of the chain, weren't there 700 of these worldwide?
Yes, and Lainey and I and my mom were shopping this weekend at, she had not been to, the largest mall in Pittsburgh.
No.
And I took her, and, she walks in and she was like, well, this would be great if there was a Disney store. I'm sorry, sweetheart, if I could bring them back, I would.
Yeah, sadly, they learned the hard way that when they put a Disney store in every mall in America, they stopped being special. It was a success, or rather a case of too much success. They just put them everywhere and they stopped being special.
Speaking of stopping being special, I feel like, we've now been doing the show. It's the second year for it. And I feel like there are too many anniversaries. Should we really be celebrating 38 years of the Disney store? We are talking about a Disney anniversary every episode, it seems.
Yeah, and by the way, there are lots of people at the company who feel exactly as you do. They feel like in a situation like that where you're trying to make everything special, nothing is special.
Nothing is special. Yeah, okay, so going back to this one, 38 years, what's interesting is if you are on Instagram, that they're doing a March Madness bracket for fairy tales or animals or it's just head-to-head matchups, honestly, and it's daily on their Instagram stories, so it's not even their feed from 7 a.m. Pacific to 1 p.m. And they said that winners are getting exclusive limited edition merch drops. I don't know if that is the ability to buy more, which would be classic Disney, but that's happening, which is a little bit fun if you're doing some March Madness brackets. And they do, shocker, have, a line of special merch to commemorate the occasion of 38 years. So they're doing some like retro merch on the Disney store. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I mean, the shirts, they look very standard to me, but they say they're special.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing, though, that, I mean, there's a perception out there that Disney is this entertainment monolith, this giant corporation that plans everything out for years and years and years in advance. And Lauren, the hard reality is Disney is, 20, 30 little companies that share a name and don't necessarily talk to one another or share agendas. So something like this where, I mean, don't get me wrong, somebody who works at the Disney store, who deals in online social engagement is doing their job. It's clever to do a March Madness thing when March Madness is actually going on and this sort of bracket thing. But at the same time where it's like, oh, by the way, we have a live action Snow White. Do you want to go look at that, please? It can get kind of cluttered. It can get kind of distracting.
I really do feel like I feel that viscerally today more than ever, but everybody's fighting over the, trying to make a buck. So I want to switch gears and talk about some D23 special offerings where you can actually save. So the first one is I'm hesitant to even talk about it because I've missed it. I'm salty that I missed it.
Okay.
Jim, if you have any connections, but happening on April 12th while I will be down visiting the Orlando theme parks, Mickey's of Glendale for D23 gold members in Mickey's of Glendale is Imagineering shop that right now you can only get Imagineering merch, to my knowledge, in Glendale or at the D23 event. So they're doing a pop-up shop April 12th at Coronado, I believe. And I knew about it a month ago thinking that it's a pop-up shop. So you're just going to you're going to be in the vicinity on April 12th and you're going to show up, which is so naive of me. I've been doing Disney for way too long to think that way. So as I was kind of pulling stuff together for the show, I was like, oh, I want to go get more details about it. And it's like Mickey's of Glendale sold out. I'm like, what? It's March. I can't even get in a virtual queue.
Okay, then leave us to do, again, one of the nice things about having a podcast is you can make an appeal, all right? And again, folks, on behalf of the lovely Lauren Hersey here, look, that I'm looking at the ticket limit here. It says that each gold member can register for one 30-minute shopping window and bring one guest. They can bring a guest. Wouldn't somebody out there love to have Lauren Hersey come along with them and do a little shopping? I'm sure there's somebody out there who is making a special trip down to the park, and face it, their family wants to stay in the park and enjoy themselves, so they're going by themselves. And couldn't they meet up with Lauren? Couldn't they meet her there in the lobby at the Coronado, and the two of you could go strolling in and shop?
Just say it. And I'm not sick anymore, so I won't even give you any type of crud.
There we go.
No, so I'm hoping that something changes between now and then. But it is April 12th happening in Orlando, which is really rare. And thank you, Disney, for that. They are also, if you go to the D23 website, there is a special going on right now. It's not being promoted on the Disney store, so you won't find it there. But from now until the end of March, March, you can get 23% off for all D23 members. That's the gold members and the free members by using promo code D23 shop. So that is something additional. They didn't have to do it. I feel like it's very helpful. They just released all of their summer gear. So to my knowledge, it is good on everything. So another little PSA.
Okay. And while we're talking about D23 here, forgive me, I'm about to get on my soapbox here. I am ticked off about, again, I'm a gold member. And they very quietly last year, I want to say it was November of last year, announced that they were going to stop, the gold members were going to stop getting the physical copy of the magazine 4 times a year in the mail, that you could now go online and look at the virtual version, but if you wanted the physical version, that they'd sell it to you.
What?
Yes. Okay.
How did I miss this?
Well, again, it was announced in November, busy holiday season, put it out there. But here's the thing. I'll be damned, Lauren, if I can find a place on the Disney Store site, the D23 site, anywhere on the planet where I actually can buy the physical version of this magazine. So, you know how I had to get my most recent copy, the winter-spring issue of D23 magazine?
How?
eBay. I had to go on eBay. And now, mind you, I got it at a relatively reasonable cost. I want to say that the magazine supposedly sells for $10 at some unnamed site in the vast Disney online empire for $10. And I assumed then there'd be a postage thing. But I was able to get it on eBay for $12 and a fairly reasonable mailing. And I'm assuming I'm going to have to do the very same thing with the very next issue. But I honestly think Disney has done such a poor job of making the physical magazine available to those of us who've been collecting it since the beginning.
Right. And that isn't that like what you get for being a member? I know that they're doing those boxes now, but that even changed. I bought my boss a subscription for Boss's Day. And so I feel like that's a bit disappointment. I think you're
absolutely.
rightly pissed.
Yeah, no, and it's so funny you say that, because I can look at least 2 D23 boxes here at the house that are sitting there stacked up, unopened, unloved, because every year it's like, here, pins you'll never look at, neckerchiefs you'll never use, really bad statues. It's like, yeah, I'm so glad I'm giving you money. But again, I have said this on this show previously. I keep my D23 membership going largely because every 2 years I need to go to the expo. It's the equivalent of a trade show for folks like you and I. We have to go there because that's where we get the Disney-related stories.
Well, maybe that's why we got Mickey's of Glendale in Florida, because they feel bad. People are mad, and they're like, what can we give these people that will take this sting away a bit? Because, I mean, the magazines had to have been a decent amount to produce them.
No doubt.
I mean, they were great quality.
Though, and in fact, I've told this story previously, and I got it from film historian, wonderful critic Leonard Maltin. But he talked about how the old Disney magazine, the one that would come out 6 times a year, he said, Jim, I took that into the bathroom. I read it cover to cover. I knew everything that the company was doing. He said, but now with D23, this magazine shows up in its little plastic slipcover, and I take it out once and I read it and I put it back in its plastic slipcover and I put it on the shelf. I never look at it again because that's what you've told me to do. It's like, oh, this is valuable. Put it back in its plastic sleeve. Whereas the other thing, I read them, I referenced them when I wrote. It just said, I think this is a wrong-headed approach to how to do a Disney magazine. Okay, that's enough of me being a whiny baby man.
No, No, listen, I get it. Okay, so next up, differing opinions here too, is we talked about the 70th anniversary of Disneyland, and no one, for the record, is complaining about the 70th, because that is worth celebrating.
There we go.
At Disneyland. But on our last show, you had mentioned that our friends Duffy and Shelley May will be making an appearance in the parade, and you weren't as excited as I was. You're like, quit trying to make fetch happen. But I was excited. So I saw that if you are a Duffy fan like me, that there is a new special package coming to Tokyo Disney Sea, and I believe that this package is targeted to U.S. residents that need their Duffy fix. So reservations have already opened for this 20th anniversary package, and the availability is July 1st to August 1st, so it's a limited window. It's 2 days, 1 night. Okay. So what you're getting in this package is you are staying at Tokyo Disney Sea Hotel, or Fantasy Springs Hotel. And then you get this, a meal and show at Cape Cod Cook-Off in Tokyo Disney Sea, and a private meet and greet with Duffy and a friend in their 20th anniversary outfits. And I mean, if you've not seen them, they're adorable. I mean, like, really, really cute. Like, the merch will, be flying off the shelves, I'm sure. But what we know so far is July 1st to August 10th. It is Duffy and Shelley May. And then the 11th to the 31st of August is Duffy and Gelatoni.
Yeah, Gelatoni the cat. There we go. Okay.
Yes. So that's what we got. And then there are additional greetings with Stella Lou, Cookie Ann, Alu Mel, Lena Bell, which are coming later, but there's some exclusive merch that goes along with the celebration, and I think that it's kind of like bubbles, like bubble themed merch, which is really, really cute. So if you need a Duffy fix, and you do not want to go to Disney, Tokyo Disney Sea, then stay tuned, because after the break, Jim is going to be telling us the little story about our favorite Disney bear. Is that right?
Oh, not a little story, a two-parter. Just warning up front, folks. You got to come back. There's a second after this thing. All right. But first, this.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're going to love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from McDonald's, Popeyes, Pizza Hut, Wendy's, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a hamburger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, and we're back. And again, just before we got started here, Lauren was sharing all sorts of information about a 20th anniversary celebration of Duffy the Disney Bear. And you also alluded to early on that we have Disneyland's 70th anniversary also coming up this summer. And I think we did talk about this in an earlier show that as part of Disneyland's 70th, during the day through that park, all of this summer, they're going to be having the Celebrate Happy cavalcade, which, Lauren, just to explain, not a daytime parade per se, that would involve multiple floats, a bunch of parade units, whereas a cavalcade, this is typically a single parade float with characters on it, maybe a couple of supporting units. And by the way, anybody who went to the Disney parks during the pandemic, you're familiar with the Disney cavalcades.
Oh, yes.
All right. These were done during the COVID era with the idea that, okay, we're putting the characters out in the park in a way that the guests can see them without either party getting exposed to something.
And we got the flotillas too, right?
There we go. There we go. This is true. Okay, but now, mind you, the stateside parks have largely got back to the way they were operating pre-COVID. So cavalcades have largely disappeared. But what's interesting about the Celebrate Happy Cavalcade, again, staged at Disneyland, part of the 70th anniversary, is, you're going to love this, Lauren, it's supposedly entirely being paid for by Disney Consumer Products, not the parks. And now what's interesting is you can actually go and look at a piece of concept art for this thing, and you can see on the floats, you can see, well, first of all, the Fab Five. You have Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, and Pluto. But this cavalcade also features appearances by walk-around character versions of Chip and Dale, Daisy Duck, Goofy's son Max, and Clarabelle Cow, my personal favorite. But also there, as part of this, is Duffy, the Disney bear, and her making her stateside Disney theme park debut, Shelley Mae, Duffy's girlfriend. And just want to lay this out, Lauren. That's 12 different Disney characters appearing in this cavalcade with 12 supporting dancers in the street. Oh, and the two people who are powering the bicycles that have platforms that Shelley Mae and Duffy are standing on. And if you factor in the guy who's trapped inside of the float, driving the float, this is 27 people.
Why is this not a parade? Like, I feel like it's a stretch calling it a cavalcade. I'm just saying.
Well, but again, remember, this is being paid for by the merch.
By consumer, okay.
Okay, and in the Bullwinkle tradition, this time for sure, the notion is, because this is the third time they have tried to persuade people stateside to buy Duffy merch.
This is sponsored content in the physical form.
There we go. All right. And by the way, I want to remind folks that previously at the Disneyland Resort, in fact, it was nearly 15 years ago. This happened in October of 2010. Duffy, at one point, actually had his own meet and greet area on Paradise Pier over in California Adventure. And right next door in the Treasures of Paradise store, guests could buy their own Disney bear. And by the way, you had 6 different outfits to choose from, Lauren. You could dress your Duffy in a Canada-themed outfit, a Mexico-themed outfit, and a China-themed outfit, as well as Duffy's traditional sailor outfit, not to mention a baseball jersey and a safari outfit. And, okay, those outfits, they ran $15 a piece, and you could pick up your Duffy bear without clothes for $25.
We had a naked Duffy bear. I'm like, did we not buy him any clothes?
Well, but see, but now I want to circle back there for a moment. Now, does any of that sound familiar to you? A Canada-themed outfit, a Mexico-themed outfit, a China-themed outfit?
No. I do remember the meet and greet in Epcot. I remember getting the Duffy bear, but I do not remember those outfits being available.
But that was the whole point. Those outfits were because you're at Epcot and you're buying your Duffy the bear. Because that's the thing. October of 2010, they relaunched it in California and Florida. Not only that, but the baseball jersey, you were only able to get that version of Duffy, supposedly if you went to ESPN Wide World of Sports. And the safari outfit, well, again, you're supposed to buy, that's the Duffy you're buying over at Animal Kingdom. And Lauren, very well coordinated, very well capitalized effort, all with the hope that stateside Disney theme park fans would now finally embrace Duffy the way people in Tokyo Disneyland and Hong Kong Disneyland had. They didn't. Jim Schul was telling me the story because he was working on the redo of DCA at the time, and he'd be on Paradise Pier and he'd go by Duffy in his pavilion, and this very lonely cast member was like, "Hello," but all of these other guests are walking by and looking into the thing, and what's the deal with the bear? I don't recognize that character. And
Wait for the mouse. Why is this sad, fluffy bear standing here?
Well, more to the point, what's interesting is people were more likely to say, well, where are Buzz and Woody? Because you got to remember, summer of 2010 is when Toy Story 3 came out. And 2 years before that, Toy Story Midway Mania had opened at the same park and was this huge success. And so finally, after 10 years of this, the Imagineers effectively, after getting tired of people saying, well, where are the Toy Story characters? Like, all right, fine. You're coming to Paradise Pier, you're looking for Toy Story characters? Great. We're going to rename this entire side of the park Pixar Pier. There, you happy?
Open your eyes, look around.
There we go.
Here they are.
Yeah. But anyway, meanwhile, Duffy gets displaced and Disney struggles to get people to buy anything Duffy related. And we'll talk more about that in a sec. But first, this.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does without me lifting a finger, so I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Hear that? It's SpringFest savings calling your name. Only at Lowe's. Right now, get a free Select Ego 56-volt battery when you buy a Select Ego trimmer, blower, or mower. Plus, get your choice of any 2 bags of Miracle Grow organic soil mix for only $16. Shop these can't-miss deals in-store or online today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Valid through 4/2. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Excludes Hawaii.
All right, and we're back, Lauren, and again, we're talking about the history of Duffy at the Stateside theme park. And here's the thing I just find fascinating about the whole people in the States just do not go for Duffy. In spite of the company trying again, this daytime cavalcade thing that they're going to launch this summer at part of Disneyland 70th. It's like, and the irony, the supreme irony of this thing is Disney used to be good at selling teddy bears to guests. In fact, I know that you and Eric have started going to the parks relatively recently with your family, but do you remember at all hearing anything about the Walt Disney World Teddy Bear Convention?
No.
Okay.
That's a hard no.
Okay, well, this is something that the company actually started in December of '88. So we're 4 years after Michael Eisner comes through the door, and he's very much about, we need to create more reasons for people to go to Disney World. And so they decide they're going to create this event for toy collectors. When it started out, it was actually held at the Contemporary Hotel in their convention center. And to get people to come, Disney would always create a special limited edition bear that you could only buy at the event.
Was this around Beanie Babies time? It feels like they're taking a page out of their book.
I'll have to check on that. Now, what's interesting, though, is that whole, you can only get it at this event. Not entirely true. Once the event was over, any of the limited edition bears that did not sell at that event would eventually end up over at the Character Warehouse, which I'm dating myself because I used to go when it was at Bell's But did you guys go this recent trip? But it's at the Orlando Premium Outlets, right?
Oh, yeah, we go to both. We hit them both up.
Okay. Well, this is how, for example, I got my wonderful Teddy Bear plush. This was what was the offering at the 1992 Walt Disney World Teddy Bear and Doll collection. And by the way, that's the other thing, that over time it went from being the Teddy Bear convention to the Teddy Bear and Doll convention. Anyway, like we said, starts in 88 and eventually moves out of the Contemporary Hotel over to Epcot, just like Food and Wine and Flower and Garden. Yet another seasonal offering to get people into that park. And what was interesting is that the people on the retail side of Disney, they noted, it's like, wow, look at that surge in attendance at Epcot when the Teddy Bear and Doll convention is being held. And it's like, could we do something like that at Downtown Disney? Maybe we could offer an exclusive teddy bear that guests could only buy at a certain store here in our nighttime entertainment, dining, and shopping district. So, with this idea in mind, the retail folks reach out to Imagineering. And this is at a somewhat interesting time, Lauren, because they're seeing a surge of attendance in the late 1999, 2000, 2001 because of the millennium. But all of the special entertainment that Disney's doing for the millennium stops on January 31st, 2001. And so it's like, well, we need stuff. We need new stuff. And we especially need new stuff over at Downtown Disney. So what can you do? And so what the Imagineers design is a 16,000 square foot store that is a new variation of a toy shop. It has several different themed areas, each specializing in a specific type of plaything, games, plush, collectibles. And especially leaning into the collectibles aspect of this store, which, by the way, is still there. Once Upon a Toy opens to the public July of 2002. But this is where the only place on property you can buy the Disney Bear. And want to stress, at this point, not called Duffy yet. We'll get to how that happens in the next installment of the series. But then he was called the Disney Bear because, well, he actually had 4 different hidden Mickeys on his body. I mean, his face, if you looked at his face, that was Mickey ear shaped, and there was on the pad of his foot, there was a Mickey shape, and I want to say there was one on his hip, and I have no idea what the fourth one is. But again, you can only get this bear at one store at Walt Disney World. And there were a lot of people in the company who were like, I don't think this is a good idea. Especially when you consider that this bear, nobody knows who this bear is. He's not tied to a film. He's not tied to a TV show. He's just the bear. You can buy it at Once Upon a Toy. And also worth noting, Lauren, because we just talked about him on the last show, Stitch. Lilo and Stitch had come out the summer of 2002. All right. And the company's doing a full court press on that little blue alien, who is an obnoxious character. Delightful, but obnoxious. And Stitch merchandise is flying out the door. Whereas the Disney Bear stuff, which, oh God, it has this...
It makes you feel so bad for it.
Oh, it gets so much worse because the company had created this sticky, sweet backstory for the Disney Bear. He's supposed to be Mickey's teddy bear. And one night, Mickey takes his teddy bear with him to the Magic Kingdom. And just before she starts the nighttime fireworks, Tinkerbell flies down to Mickey and blasts this thing with pixie dust, which is why the Disney Bear now comes to life. And I'm sorry, I hear this story, and I already have type 2 diabetes. I get type 4. All right? I just it's horrible story. But anyway, 2002 gives way to 2003, and sales of the Disney Bear aren't anywhere near where the folks at Walt Disney World had hoped they'd be. And this is after they're spending beaucoup bucks on promoting it. I mean, you got on the buses and they had the signs about, oh yeah, Disney Bear, you can only get it at Once Upon a Time. And they hyped it on the in-room television channel. And they're still seeing very little foot traffic in Once Upon a Toy. So at this point, Lauren, the stateside retail people effectively throw up their hands and it's like, we abandon this product line. But in the same window of time, a buyer from Tokyo Disney Resort who come to Florida because he's looking for new items to sell at Tokyo Disney Sea, the theme park that opened in September of 2001. They're going to be holding the Harborside Christmas celebration in a year, November of 2004 at this point. And they're more than a year out, but he's looking for something cute to sell. And he comes across this giant display in Once Upon a Toy of all of these forlorn Disney bears. And he's thinking, hey, they look cute. And Japanese theme park fans love cute. And so he literally turns to the people who are running retail at Walt Disney World and says, I'll tell you what, I'll take those all off your hands. What do you give me? And they're like, oh, please, we will give you a rock bottom price. Just get those things out of the building. And so, but here's the thing. He doesn't want to spend a lot of money on them. So he buys them all and puts them in a shipping container and puts them on the proverbial slow boat to China. And when you're on the way, stop at Tokyo Bay and give me my bears, which I need for November of 2004. But it's going to take at least 6 months for them to get there. And but then, Lauren, once the bears get there, something magical happens, which we will discuss in next week's feature on I Want That Too.
Oh, leaving us on a cliffhanger again. But I think that's a good time to close up shop for today, since, I mean, we don't have any other choice. Just stick around for next week so we can hear about the magic christening that the ocean water gave to this boatload of bears.
There we go.
Yeah, so that will be coming up on our next episode of I Want That Too.
And by the way, if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening across the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, be sure and follow us over on Facebook, Instagram, or X. We post the latest updates and news on our show so you won't miss a thing. And if you're looking for even more insider Disney content, check out our Patreon community. That's a lot happening over there, like Disney Unpacked with Len Testa and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul.
And while you're at it, leave us a review. It really helps to support the show, and it means a lot to us.
That it does. And if you've got questions or suggestions for future episodes, we would, of course, love to hear from you. You can reach out to us on social media or email us at jim@jimhillmedia, or Lauren, they can reach you at...
You can reach me at lauren@laurenhersey.com. And it seems like the funnest way. We do get a lot of emails, but there's been so many people reaching out to Eric on Blue Sky, and it's like, show Lauren and Jim this. So, or you can reach out through Eric on Blue Sky.
Okay, well, there we go. I guess we got to get over in Blue Sky. Okay.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time on I Want That Too.